This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Wednesday, January 11th, 2006, and this is episode number 48 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from MGMstudios.org. We've got the co-author of the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World, Len Testa, on the panel today. Welcome, Len.
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
Pretty good. Looks like it's just you and me today for the question show.
You and me and you, both of us together.
Nice.
Ain't that romantical?
Very. And this being Wednesday, of course, it's our question show, so if you've got your own questions, feel free to email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. Now, before we get into the questions, you have a follow-up for a question we had a week or two ago about FastPass?
That's right. One of our listeners wrote in and asked about a couple of sections in the Birnbaum official guide that mentioned or that alluded to the possibility of FastPass not being free for certain people in 2006. So I forwarded it on to Bob Sellinger, who sent the question on to Disney. Disney got back to us, actually, and gave us the email address of the editor of the book, who apologized and said it was a misprint, that they meant to say it was Magical Express, that might not be free, or there might be a charge for it in 2006. So as far as we know, FastPass is still going to be free in 2006. There might be a charge for Magical Express at some point, probably when the Happy Celebration on Earth ends. So it took us a couple weeks to follow up on that. Sorry for the delay, but yeah, it looks like it was a misprint in the Birnbaum guide.
Oh. Birnbaum getting their information wrong. Who'd have thunk it? No comment from Len on that.
Yeah, right.
For legal reasons, Len cannot jump in on the joke. Quick question, though. Do you have any idea how much DME might be going for when they do start charging for it?
No, I don't. That's a good question. Disney doesn't usually talk about unannounced plans and things like that, but I think, what was Mears charging before? $25, $29, something like that?
Yes.
I would expect it to be less than that.
Okay. Great. Well, let's jump in right into the questions. Our first question comes from Bobby Casterline of Bayonne, New Jersey, and Bobby asks us, hi guys, my name is Bobby, and I've been a loyal listener for the past month or so. Keep up the great work with the podcast. My question has to do with Star Wars weekends. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and Disney World as well, so there's nothing better than Star Wars weekends in Walt Disney World. I've been reading on the net and hearing from friends who are Disney World cast members that there will not be a Star Wars weekend in 2006. What have you guys heard about this rumor? Thanks in advance for any information you guys can provide. Well, Bobby, fear not, because the Star Wars weekends will be returning in 2006. How do I know? Well, because I have the dates already for the 2006 Star Wars weekends. You'll be able to find them at my website at mgmstudios.org. I'll also have a link in the show notes to them. The Star Wars weekends in 2005, it was a huge event for Disney and Lucas. They both made gobs of money. Limited merchandise was sold out by about the first weekend. If you were trying to get I believe it was either the Darth Mickey or the Jedi Mickey plush doll. I mean, you had these events were held in May and June of 2005, and you could get them by about October of 2005, so they were really sold out of it. I've heard no murmurs of it being off. The only reason why people say that it might not be on in 2006 is because of the movie. There's just no more movies, but it's George Lucas. He'll probably come out with something.
Wait, there's no more movies? Who said that? What the hell?
Don't worry, I'm sure they'll.
I didn't hear anything about that. Hold
on. We'll have a planning show about Star Wars weekends as we get closer to it. But Len, usually Star Wars weekends don't really affect crowds that much on non-Star Wars events. Is that right?
Yeah, obviously there's an increase in traffic to Star Tours, the attraction, and some of the lines to meet some of the personalities can get pretty long. But other than that, there's not a huge impact throughout the rest of the studios for the weekend. We actually had people in the parks during Star Wars weekends 2005, and again, aside from those couple things we mentioned, not a noticeable impact on other things. So,
great. Well, our next question comes from Todd Pushman of Southgate, Michigan, and Todd writes, "Awesome show. Keep up the great work. On our last few times to Epcot, my wife and I have made it a tradition to stop by Mexico to pick up a margarita on our way to the beer garden for dinner and some good German beer. Then later, on the path to find the best spot for Illuminations, we grab a Sam Adams at the American Pavilion, and then finally on our way out, if we're lucky, we stop by either the United Kingdom to grab a Harp or Canada to grab a Labatt. Sounds like a good plan, except I don't know why he's not grabbing Guinness in the UK.
Yeah, really.
He goes on to write, on our last trip, while waiting for our table at the beer garden, we were talking to some off-duty cast members who told us about drinking around the world. I was a bit surprised on just how popular it is among cast members. Since we are mostly doing it already, my wife and I figured we'd give it the official attempt on our next trip in January. Any suggestions? Len?
Yeah, start slow. I tried this in December 2004 during one of the Mousefest meets, and it was brutal. We started in the UK, and by the time I got to Mexico, I was woozly, and by the time I can barely remember Germany, drinking schnapps in Germany, and then apparently I bought dinner for some people in Japan, which I again remember a little bit about, and then that's it. It was, somehow I ended up at the dueling piano bar, which I can't remember for the life of me. I blacked out.
Jelly rolls.
Jelly rolls. At like midnight, there were some photos. There was a conga line. It's a long story. If you're gonna do it, you don't have to stick with beer, because beer is really filling and carbonated. But the thing is, with the other drinks, the alcohol content is higher. So you really got to pace yourself. Maybe grab something to eat ahead of time. I suggest starting at Mexico, maybe grabbing something at the cantina ahead of time, and really just planning to take a few hours to do that. So you're going to drink 12, 13 drinks in 5 or 6 hours. You're going to be pretty well toasted. That's it's the Tara Reid touring plan of World Showcase.
That's a great title for it, Len.
Thank you. We'll be hearing from her lawyer shortly, I'm sure.
Yeah. But the other thing, I'll echo what Len said. Take your time. It's also expensive to do. If you're going to stop at every country, take a beer, and the beers can cost. I mean, we're talking almost. Some of them are close to $8.
Yeah. You're looking at $100 to do this.
Yeah, not
to do it right, baby.
But yeah, time, and of course, I remember my personal mantra: beer before liquor, never been sicker. Liquor before beer, in the clear. Our next question.
French guys at night, something. Go ahead.
And leaves of 3, leave them be. Leaves of 4. That's not appropriate.
Whatever.
Go
ahead.
The next question comes from Steve of Cambridge, Massachusetts. I will be traveling to Walt Disney World in February and booked under the Magic Your Way package. I know about most of the items listed in the package from when I booked, but the confirmation mail I received lists 1 Planet Hollywood meal voucher and 1 Planet Hollywood merchandise voucher. What are these, and are they something worthwhile? Len?
Yeah, the Planet Hollywood meal voucher is usually good for like a burger or a sandwich, fries, and like a couple scoops of ice cream for dessert. And the merchandise voucher is usually good for $5 off, like a T-shirt or something, at the merchandise shop. In and of itself, I mean, it's not. And free meals, never a bad thing. But I don't know that I'd go out of my way to, all the way to Planet Hollywood to redeem it. The food's just not that great. But if you find yourself at Pleasure Island or Downtown Disney or the West Side at 2:00 in the morning, and you're feeling a little hungry, yeah, then definitely I'd use the voucher. But I wouldn't make a special trip over all the way over there just for that.
Sounds good. My next question comes from, actually, Steve Seifert, who's been on the show a few times. And Steve writes, hey guys, love the shows. Is Disney dropping the MGM name from MGM Studios, and if so, when? Well, Steve, Len, you could probably back me up on this. This is one of these rumors that never dies.
Yeah.
It's, they just, perpetually there's been rumors that the park, the Disney MGM Studios, will be renamed the Disney Studios or something along those lines, as like the, perhaps closer to the park in Disneyland Paris, which is named Walt Disney Studios. There's a couple of reasons for it. One was that initially that there was a contract between MGM Studios and Disney, which expired in 2005, but was renewed, of course, and it's still there. The other reason why a lot of people claim that it's going to change is if you've ever gotten the Disney World DVD, or even if you've just gone to your resort television channel and seen, whenever they mention MGM Studios, they always call it the Disney Studios, never any reference to MGM. And that's just it's part of the language of the contract, which they can't advertise the MGM Studios, that's Disney, can't advertise the MGM Studios outside of the park. So these kinds of things are outside of the park. It's part of the legalese. In any case, it's one of these rumors that's been around for a while, and I would not put too much weight on them because I've heard it for so long that I don't even... Seeing is believing. That's what I always say about rumors.
Yeah, I mean,
like
when
this.
they make the announcement, then I'll believe it.
Right. Our next question comes from Lisa Budenhoff of Washington, D.C., and she writes, we leave... never mind. If we have dinner reservations at Victoria and Albert's for the 9 o'clock p.m. seating on a Tuesday, would it be feasible to catch the 8 o'clock p.m. Spectra Magic Parade at the Magic Kingdom and still make it to the Grand Floridian in time for our dining reservations, or are we just crazy?
Now, you could definitely do it, Lisa. What I would suggest, though, is viewing the Spectra Magic Parade from the train station end of Main Street, and in fact, from the second story train station itself. And then, as soon as you see the last float, like around 8:25 or 8:30, head directly out of the Magic Kingdom and look for the Resort Launch. It's a boat that goes directly between the Magic Kingdom and the Grand Floridian. I think they run every 10 or 15 minutes, and that should get you there at about 8:50 or so. Plenty of time to walk in for the 9 o'clock seating of Victoria and Albert's. And if you think you're cutting that a little bit close, just leave it at 8:20 from the Magic Kingdom, 8:25. And that'll give you plenty of time to get there. You shouldn't have a problem at all.
All right. Our next question comes from Fred, and Fred, he's got a question for you, Len. He wants to know if it's possible, being a former college program cast member, if he can join in and do some research for the unofficial guide to Walt Disney World.
Yeah, actually, Fred emailed me too, and I apologize for not getting back to him. I was been busy the last couple of days with the race and everything, but. Yeah, any of our listeners who's either headed to Walt Disney World and has a few extra hours, or is sitting at home and just loves Disney and can surf the web for 15 or 20 minutes a day, anyone who wants to volunteer to do some work for either the podcast or the website, the unofficial guide, drop us a line. We've got tasks for everyone to do. If you're in Walt Disney World, we can have you review a restaurant or maybe ride a bus for once or twice. Something like that, and if you're sitting at home and don't have a trip scheduled, we can have you look for the latest news. So definitely drop us a line with your name and email address and any special skills or interests you have related to Walt Disney, especially in the areas of transportation, restaurants, or lodging, and we'll put you to work.
Great.
Thanks for the offer, Fred.
We have the bullwhip standing by.
Exactly.
Just for you, Fred. Our next question comes from John, and he writes, my question is as follows. We have been to Disney World as recently as this past summer. We are planning a return possibly next summer or 2007. We went through the Disney World travel agency and had great results. I am wondering, does one save money through other travel agencies if one stays at the park? We stayed at the Wilderness Lodge for 10 nights and 11 days. Included, can one save ticket money by booking the room and purchasing tickets elsewhere, or is their offer, meaning Disney's offer, a good deal? Thanks, and I look forward to your next podcast. So, let's start off with the first part of that question, Len. Is there any difference between booking through Disney and through versus a third-party travel agent?
Yeah, there's in my experience, Disney has travel agents have been reluctant to offer any sort of subjective opinion on what things might be better for you or your family. So, for example, if you ask them which of two particular ticket options is better for your family, they won't actually make a decision for you, and they won't recommend one or the other. They will simply provide you with the facts and let you make the decision. Whereas I think other travel agents will generally tell you the pros and cons of each approach and suggest something based on what they think your needs are. So Disney doesn't really... they're really hesitant to provide that sort of subjective opinion on things, whereas I think third-party travel agents do. The downside with using third-party travel agents, apart from maybe a Disney specialist travel agent like Dreams Unlimited or Sue Pizzaturo from Small World Travel or Mouse Year Vacations, apart from using those people, if it's a small travel agency and they don't do a lot of Disney business or have a lot of Disney experience, they might not know as much as a Disney travel agent or a Disney specialist travel agent. So those are your trade-offs right there. That's why I think sort of the Disney specialist travel agencies are kind of in the sweet spot as far as agencies go with Disney. They can provide that objective third-party information or subjective third-party information to you and interpret your needs. And they've got all the experience being Disney fans.
Great. And we've got time for just one more question, Len. This comes from Macmillan Mom of Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. She writes, maybe it's just me, but I've tried using sites like Orbitz, Travelocity, Hotels.com to get cheaper rates, and I always do better on my own. I have friends who swear by these sites, but when I use them, they are so much more money than what I price out. The only times that they seem to work for me is when I'm doing air, hotel, and car. If you do only one or two, they are ineffective. Anywho, do these sites even work for the official Disney hotels? Since they have dried up the discount codes, AAA is the best I have been able to get as far as discounts. Also, why in heaven's name, since they got rid of the Disney Club and the American Express White Glove service, don't they offer better discounts and stuff to Disney Visa card holders? So let's start off with booking hotels via the online brokers. Correct me if I'm wrong, Len, but isn't Expedia is the only site that allows you to book Disney hotels?
I'm not sure. I usually use a meta search engine called Travelax.
Yes.
That Travelax.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's all one word. It's a meta search engine. So if you do a search on our Orlando hotels, it'll actually go out and search Expedia and Orbitz and Hotels.com and like a dozen other sites simultaneously, and provide you the best rates from all of those sites at once. And it's probably the best package of its kind for that. With respect to finding the lowest rates, generally speaking, you'll always get a lower rate, or at least the same rate, by calling the hotel directly, not the 800 number, but the hotel directly. So if you're looking at an off-site hotel, let's say Gaylord Palms, for example, find the best rate you can on Travelax, and then call them up and say, look, I just got this rate off the internet. Can you beat it? And in our experience, about 2/3 of the time, calling the hotel gets you the best rate. Roughly 20% of the time, it's off the internet, and roughly 5% of the time, it's by calling the hotel's 800 number directly. So those are my two things. Find the best rate you can on the internet, and then call the hotel directly and see if they can beat it. That's my dog barking in the background, by the way.
But I believe that's good tips for off-site. What about, I think she's asking about official Disney hotels.
For official Disney hotels,
I was under the impression Expedia had some sort of a deal with them, whether or not it's a good price.
They have Expedia's special rates. I haven't checked. That's a good question. It'd be interesting to compare on Travelax the Disney hotels and the non-Disney hotels. Let me take that as a follow-up question for next week's show.
Sounds good. Well, that's it for us today. This has been episode number 48 of Walt Disney World Today. If you would like to find some older episodes, read some show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at www.wdwtoday.com. You can also email us at questions@wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mike Newell, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.